What does it mean to grow up? What does it mean to grow up?
This is just a misunderstanding.
Put the knives down!
I can't. Look.
So growing up, there's learning about the rules of our culture, the language that we will speak in our primary territorial area that will exist in. There's physically growing up, going through puberty, learning to talk, learning to walk. Perhaps some of us learn to do amazing things with our bodies at a young age, like gymnasts and dancers. So there's obviously there's a physical development, and then we're like in a state of entropy, in aging, until we finally die, where the body is getting older and it's constantly regenerating and it's constantly breaking down. But like ultimately we get to death because the body can't recover itself as fast as it's breaking down after a while. Like so, like it's like a Wolverine thing where it's recovering, it's breaking, it's recovering, it's breaking. But ultimately we're not Wolverines. So we stop healing and we just break down. And that's death, which would be the end of the growing up cycle. But like but now we need to figure out what's in between that. What's in between birth and death is growing up, right? And I'd have to say that I agree with Jordan Peterson, who has a lot of lectures about responsibility, that fundamentally growing up is about responsibility. And I think like, obviously you need to learn how to provide for yourself financially, which is one of the trickiest and hardest parts about growing up, because like it's hard to learn how you should make money, and you can easily be cast into poverty if you don't have resources, and to have a family who can loan you money or friends who can loan you money is a blessing. And it's not necessarily a blessing everyone has, because like honestly, like all it takes for you to be homeless or to go into poverty, it's quite easy. It's one missing paycheck. And like, so if you don't have like the cushion of friends or relatives being able to help you, and like if you accidentally lose your job or like it's you could easily be sent into poverty. So one of the things is like learning how to take care of yourself financially, and then if you do end up in a situation that could break you, and by all intensive needs should break you, a part of growing up is being able to figure out how not to let the most impossible odds crush you, and to be able to do it without mommy and daddy's help. You know, there are the concepts of the man child, or like in, you know, any grown adult child, like, you know, being 35 and living in your parents' basement, being 42 and living in your parents' basement. There is this concept of the man child, the person who cannot take care of themselves. And like ultimately, if you're 35 and you're living in your mom's basement and you're wondering why you're single, that's why. You're not prepared to have a family. Like a part of me wants to say, like, absolutely, what's the harm in living at home and saving money? Because I agree with that. Like, why give all your money to landlords, and you know, like, why? But like ultimately, there's like always being with your parents fundamentally creates this loop where you're not really being an adult and you're not growing up, you know? So like there are certain hallmarks to growing up, like getting your own car, or at least moving to a city where public transportation is the norm. And there are certain hallmarks to growing up, like getting your own car, figuring out your own way to get around, getting a job, maybe an education, and then your own apartment, and then your own family, and then to make the decision to provide for a life one day, having children and raising them, or to at least be able to provide for yourself, which surprisingly a lot of people cannot do. Like you know, like honestly, like especially in countries like in America where there's a plethora of welfare systems. Like, I mean, it's hard to say like the person is grown up if they're unable to provide for themselves and they're getting handouts from the government, because like I feel like to be a functioning adult, you have to be able to know what you are capable of without anyone's help, and that means your parents, the government, or friends. And I think a lot of people would not be able to take care of themselves if it wasn't for parents, government, and friends. And then, so what does that leave you with? I suppose an incompetent man-child. And to me, that's not grown up. To me, grown up is that in spite adversity, and that you can lift up the boulder. You figure out a way to lift up the boulder that in fact wants to crush you. And for me, that's a metaphor of responsibility, that at some point in your life, you are here and there's this boulder that wants to push down on you. In fact, it wants to crush you, but you learn to carry the weight. Now, how you learn to carry the weight, I'm not sure, but you learn to carry the weight. And to me, that is growing up. And then also being brave enough to be yourself, because we...
The world that makes you like everyone else. I don't know anything. All I know is I've been lost in Beijing.
Do live in a world that wants you to be things you're not. Like a part of growing up might be accepting that you're not a Christian, or a part of growing up might be accepting that you are a Christian. A part of growing up might be accepting you want to denounce religion, and that religion, you don't want it to have any influence on your life. A part of growing up might be admitting you're a lesbian or gay or bisexual or transgender. It's growing up is figuring out who you are in a society that tries to tell you who you are. And like that's growing up. Accepting yourself and learning to love yourself is a part of growing up. And
when everyone around you speaks Chinese, and all you can say is, we'll put you down, we'll put you down.
And then being practical, because like talking in regards to money, you know, it can be easy to dream and like, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a police officer, I want to be a doctor, and you know, there's a lot of options for careers that you could spend easily 5 or 10 years being paralyzed by what you should do for a living. And ultimately, what you should do for a living is whatever your most natural assets are. Like I've been thinking like, oh, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be an actress, I want to be, you know, a cop even. And you know, in some ways, all these careers are good for me because I'm a verbose and I'm an intelligent person. But ultimately, what I didn't realize is I'm already in a career that's quite good for me, which is teaching. But it hasn't been good for me because I've had a bad attitude about it. But if I would accept that I'm actually quite brilliant and profound in what I do, then I could have like a quite brilliant and profound career. So part of growing up is accepting yourself and accepting what you do for a living and making the best of it instead of always wishing things were different or the grass is greener on the other side. You know, like that boulder might be really heavy, but it's not crushing you, and you figured out a way to carry it. So like a part of being an adult is acceptance of your nature.